Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Q4U Podcast. As always, I'm Robert Brown. The gentleman over here is my best friend and three-time published author, Mr. Luke R. Harris. And joining us down below tonight is Glick. Glick is host of the Nonsensical Nonsense Podcast. Is that correct?
Spot on. It's a little wordy, but
So, what's the deal with the title? Where did you come up with the title from?
the title kind of explains the show because that's what it is. It's just nonsensical. It's nonsense. We're asked a lot of times, what's the show about? It's about everything and nothing all at the same time.
That's it.
It just was something that was always kind of catchy to me. Kind of rolled off the tongue a little bit and made people go, wait, what?
I mean, that's really what we went with too. You know, it's question for you. Question for you could be anything and everything. You can question it, and that's what we love about this. What is the one thing that you really love about your podcast, man?
I think my favorite thing is, and we generally try our best to stay away from politics and religion and stuff like that.
We love that stuff.
Unfortunately, that's not always avoidable in our world today, in the climate, our social climate. But there's three of us on the show. I host the show, my other two co-hosts. But all three of us together could not be any different. But we can come together and we can have conversations about anything and everything. And sometimes we learn from each other. Other times we might yell and scream at each other for 20 minutes. And I think that's my favorite thing about it, is that I got lucky enough to find two co-hosts that were so different, but at the same time, we had so much in common and could really just talk about anything, even when it comes to politics.
Right. That's one thing I love about me and Luke, man. You said it right there. Is the fact that there's times where we're like, shut the fuck up and let me talk for 5 minutes, dude. And then right after, we're like, man, I love you, buddy.
Robert starts every sentence off with no. It's not that he disagrees with you. That's his filler word. He's from the South. That's their starter word. In the Midwest, like Ohio, like you and I are at, we say no, yes, which means yes, and yes, no, which means no, and fuck no, which means absolutely not.
Exactly.
There's a lot of ways to say it, but yeah.
You throw in a lot of oops.
Oh,
You could go up a little bit north there and you get no, yes, no.
yeah, no. Yeah, no.
No.
Man,
So you're out of Columbus, you said?
Yeah, I'm a little bit east of Columbus, but I'm in that central Ohio area.
Yep.
You give her some water.
Good.
I'm in that central Ohio area. Kind of just, I try to avoid the city at all costs. I'm born and raised in the middle of nowhere, so
Yeah.
my hometown is seriously, it says 750 people, but that's a lie.
yeah. That's how ours was. My hometown was literally like 5 families that founded that town, 200 years ago or whatever. And then we were the outsiders that came in, and, my parents bought property out there when we were younger. It was just like, oh, okay, cool. So this is where we live now.
Was 12 miles across and 36 miles long. It was out in the Philippines, the island of Guam.
Oh, wow.
They'd always have a race, or some kind of marathon thing that you'd run the 12 miles across and kind of thing. And I remember one of my brothers did it when he was like 11 or 12 or something. He was part of that. They had T-shirts. I remember the T-shirt.
There's no way.
And our backwoods were jungle and wild animals and different kind.
I don't run
with wild pigs, but that's pretty much what we had to.
I don't run. It's not that I'm brave. It's just that I'm fat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Is someone chasing you? Are you all right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't run. I don't even briskly walk anymore. I'm like just nonchalantly wandering around. I'm just here.
So I think you hit me up the first time on collab. So for those of you that don't know, StreamYard, where we use the thing where we send all of our videos from, It has a new thing called Collab where you can sign up as a guest or a profile and find other podcasts or interests such as yourself. And I think the first time you messaged me was talking about paranormal stuff. Do you have some paranormal stuff to talk about?
I wish I had proof, like pictures and audio and stuff like that, but I don't. I can only kind of speak on my own personal experience.
Like, I wish I had proof. But
Yeah.
The ghost dog, Skinwalker, ate it last night.
Yeah. No, growing up, I've always, and my great grandmother always told me I was a sensitive. So, I've always had weird experiences. Probably the most prevalent, most long-lasting one was just after my oldest daughter was born. She just turned 18 now. Shortly after we brought her home from the hospital, I started catching out of the corner of my eye something on the stairs. And this, like the stairs between the living room and her bedroom. So if she would be upstairs sleeping or something. Yeah. And this went on for a couple of years until I finally could get a clearer picture. It was a little girl. Well, and my now ex-wife, I think she was about 4 or 5. One night we were sitting in the living room and we had some friends over. And at that point in time, I just didn't pay no mind to it anymore. And I glanced over, seeing it, and then I glanced back at her, and she was just bug-eyed. And I said, "You finally see her?" And she's like, "Did I see what I thought I saw?" Or I said, "Yeah, she's been around for about 4 years now." Doing research, we found that she had a family member, which would have been her like great aunt or something like that, passed away when she was about 4 or 5 years old. Wow. And the pictures that we found of her that her family had was identical to this little girl. Yep. And she stuck around. Our second daughter was born 4 years later. And she stuck around and she moved everywhere we went, from house to house, even when we initially moved to Charleston, down to South Carolina, for about a year after we moved down there, which was wild. So we just kind of chalked it off as a guardian angel of some sort.
Well, yeah, we talked about this because Robert's a Universal Life Church minister. He can officially, as long as his jurisdiction doesn't go out of the state line of Oklahoma, he can teach any religion. And we discussed that. I'm like, if you're chasing a vampire,
it's county by county. You have to register in each and every county first.
So it's only a county registry line. So
yeah,
you can
it's only
vampires in your county. That's where your jurisdiction stops.
Yeah, if I get on a vampire right out front of my house, I've only got about 8 miles to the south that I can chase it, and then it can stand up.
He's got to coordinate and triangulate with the other county vampire hunter. But in my brand of Christianity, my jurisdiction, it's as long as I'm worried, it doesn't end. But I'm the kind of Mormon that only has one wife. We don't have the 4. But we talk about religion and stuff all the time.
See, that's where you're wrong there, because you have to register at your county courthouse to officiate any kind of ceremony.
Any official kind of ceremony.
Officiate any ceremony. So, that's one of the things we talked about. So, with religion,
you're definitely describing what, we've talked about angels, and basically angels it's the French word for angel is basically you're eventually an ancestor. You're somebody that is heavily engaged in seeing you guys to be safe and protected and everything like that. So chances are y'all are carrying around an heirloom, family, something that she's familiar with that tethers her.
More than likely.
Yeah, more than likely. Robert wants to get one of those boxes of haunted dolls or something.
Yeah, different box.
I would love to have a haunted doll.
Yeah. No, I've always been fascinated with the paranormal. It was one of the things that drew me to Charleston. It's just always, and I don't know. Like I said, my great grandmother used to tell me all the time I was sensitive. I've seen and felt things most of my life. So it's just something that I've always been kind of pulled towards, and I very heavily believe in an afterlife, whether or not we become ghosts or we get stuck or whatever happens, if you have unfinished business or whatever the case may be, or there's just some evil people out here that don't want to leave.
And we kind of like the science side of it, finding the right equipment that can quantify and prove on multi-spectrums what your this camera and this camera and this camera and this camera and this Tesla camera that we yank out of a wrecked Tesla, that all these together in a rig that we want to build can and then one films you in night vision, so you don't have to turn it around like Ghost Adventures. Go, oh my god, so that you can keep focused on the Spirit La Migra guys jumping the border and running.
The thing that aggravates me the most about any paranormal show out there, any paranormal hunter you've ever seen, is when something happens. We've got to document this, guys. Oh my god, did you hear that? We just got a reply, and you're like, shut the fuck up and go back to talking to the damn thing.
Yep, and I think I'm probably different in the aspect of I do like the scientific side of it, like you said. I watch these shows just because a lot of them do a little bit of a prehistory, and I like the prehistory of the places, and then it's just background noise for me. I'm doing other stuff when they're actually doing the investigation because they're jerk offs,
They realized that they were not alone.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, show me something. I mean, you're scared, but why is the camera pointing at you when everything is happening in the hallway? Yeah,
me and the old lady were watching one day, and you could see. So they were shining their camera down the flight of stairs, and there was a reflective surface with a window, and you could see somebody reach up and turn the light on, and they're all standing upstairs. Oh my god, do you see that? And I'm like, well, go down the fucking stairs.
Yeah, go downstairs and see what's going on. See, I'm that guy in a horror movie that if something happens, I'm like, all right, I'm going down. You guys are going that way. I'm going to the south.
I'm gonna go have a beer with the serial killer. Leave me alone.
Robert had come to visit me once, and he brought his gear, and I'm the third owner of this property, and I know the first owner probably died here, and I have caught his ghost on camera. Outside of this office is my weld shop, and I was welding. I set up the camera so I could show to my dad that I was welding. Look, I'm practicing, damn it, leave me alone. And so I'm under a hood welding, and the camera's filming me this way, and my smoke's going up, and it goes up into the rafters, and then comes back Ghostbuster style. It's like over my camera. I got to dig through messages and find that, because it was like one of the coolest things ever. When I looked at it afterwards, I'm like, that's not right. There was no wind or breeze going. It was just messed up. That was that one. And then when Robert came, he had his meters, and this statue I made, it's only about 2 inches thick. There's nothing to it. The face is plaster, the hands are plaster, everything else is like Mod Podge, glued fabric, and layers of paint to look like me in carbonite. But the EMF meter goes crazy at the face and like around his heart area, but nowhere else.
Oh wow!
We put Spirit Box in one hand where he's got the Dr. Pepper, the meter in the other. We had Ghost Tube on my phone. We were filming it. We went and looked around the other wall. This wall I made, there's no power running in it. We even held a magnet up. We held it by power. Power outlet doesn't get the meter, the measurement, the same thing. And magnets didn't get the same thing. I just watched that episode last night, actually, when Hunter was here and you, and we went around everywhere. There was one other place where it was it was a hard hat and a shirt, but it was picking up. It does the, SLL thing, and it's like little dancing Tesla body parts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably maybe one other spot outside where maybe somebody buried something down at the base of the building.
It's a septic tank. It's no big deal.
Somebody hit something, but those were the only real paranormal things that we got here at the house. I'll see, dark shadow figures. I call them the cowards in the corners, and they run out of sight when you walk in the room, kind of thing. But
Blake, go ahead and tell us anywhere that somebody can find it. Anybody watching, if they want to go watch Nonsensical Nonsense Podcast, where do they find it?
Oh, shoot. It's super easy. Just look up Nonsensical Nonsense Podcast everywhere. Also, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're on Spotify. Basically, everywhere you listen to podcasts at, we're there. Yeah, we're not hard to find. You can literally Google Nonsensical Nonsense Podcast, and we're the first thing that pops up.
Do you have an OnlyFans?
I personally do have an OnlyFans. It was
Beards and dad bods.
Yeah, it was something that I've kind of joked around and toyed around with for the last couple of years. And my now fiance, one day she was like, just do it. She's like, you're not, as long as you're not showing any nudity or, interacting and chatting with people or stuff like that.
Shaving my butthole.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right. But I say that, and I've had it for 2 months now, and I've literally put 9 pictures up because I've been so busy in the last.
They will relentlessly send you messages. Hey, you haven't posted. Hey, you haven't. We don't
make
money for people post.
We done it back early before the whole porn phase of OnlyFans, because we were looking for freedom of speech. As a podcaster, you understand that there is no freedom of speech.
No, I started out on TikTok several years back, and I don't have like a huge following, but I got a decent sized following, and for whatever reason, pretty popular with the women. So that was kind of the reason I was like, well, I could show a little bit more, and I'm not real big on doing thirst traps and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we started on TikTok as well. We grew a following there. The election hit, 2020 election, and we had the Q4U podcast, and everybody's like, "Oh, QAnon."
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody called us QAnon last night.
Well, this is what I told my fiance last night. We were sitting out here talking. We had a little date night before the kids came back home, and I was like, I was chatting. I don't know which one of you guys I was chatting with on collab, and just making sure everything was good to go and everything like that. You're like, yeah, we got a senatorial candidate. And I'm like, I told her, and I said, they're going to go from a freaking politician that's like a real deal candidate to this fucking chucklehead over here, me. Like,
we were talking to a son of a rock star last night who writes comic books, and he just woke up.
The thing that we do is we don't really care who
on
you
the
are.
couch, he woke up and jumped into the podcast with us, and we're like, "Hey, man, how's it going?"
Nice.
We don't care who you are, where you come from, your background, your life story, what you do. We know the struggle for freedom of speech, and we offer a platform for anybody to come on and say, "This is my beliefs," and argue your point no matter what it is, because when it all comes down to it, we still live on planet Earth, and we got to get along one way or another.
That's my whole thing, and I've always kind of had that mentality of, I don't care what you're doing, as long as you're happy and you're not hurting anybody else and you're not hurting yourself. I have my broster, used to be my sister's, now my brother, transitioned, and I've always been very accepting of him and try to make sure I tried telling him one time, I said, you have to realize you were my sister for 30 plus years. And then all of a sudden woke up one day and I had to start calling you my brother. So sometimes that's why I came up with the term broster, which was kind of me making fun of him, but he loves it. Like he's like, that's the coolest thing you could call me. So that's what I call him. And that's what I told him, because we have other family that are like, oh, you're not a man, blah, blah. I said, look, are you happy? Are you hurting yourself? Are you hurting anybody else? No, yes. Okay, good. And you're good. Don't worry about it.
I got a niece on my wife's side that she at first we just thought she was cosplaying as Johnny Depp, but then she was doing other stuff, and that floats your boat, and she's happy. Then other people and other parts of the family start like saying, well, I'm this, that, and the other. And I had so many people from like my own sibling side, like we're all like, oh my gosh, you guys are too controversial. And, Robert used to sport Trump flags or whatever. So they thought we were evil. And they didn't bother to ask, what we actually believe or think.
I thought it'd be like, don't you know how to show? I thought it's Friday.
Again, I'm a dad. No, it's.
Yeah. We beat our kids. So that's just the difference.
I tried to, but they fight back now. So.
Well, yeah. See, and my stepson, is transitioning, and that's the hardest thing about that is the different name and everything. It's consuming a different identity. And I met you as this person,
right?
And now you want to be called something else. It's hard to reprogram the brain. You got to understand that I knew you as this person.
Yeah,
this is who I knew.
My niece.
Exactly. That's the hard
from the in-laws side. She's an artist, so we call her the artist formerly known as ... or whatever.
Nice.
Because, my daughters are 18, my twin daughters, and they knew her as their, cousin that was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's like, oh, she moved to Oregon. Well, no wonder, whatever.
Yeah.
So with that, I have a question for you to ask your broster, if you don't mind, and send me the reply or invite him to come on because I would love to ask him now, right?
Yeah.
Roaster.
Okay. And that is, would all of this simply be fixed if we changed the men and women sign to penis and vagina?
What?
Yeah. We've had that similar conversation on our show because he does like to come on and kind of shoot the shit with us. And actually, he just recently started his own paranormal investigational group thing. But I've asked that kind of similar question, and it doesn't matter because to them, vagina or not, they're still a man,
right?
Or vice versa,
Well, I mean, I like what Twin Peaks does, sit to pee or stand to pee. That's how they label the mushrooms. And I'm like, that's going to be interesting because what if I've got to sit to pee? Because I just
I'm
going in that one.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I don't know personally. Well, I do kind of know personally a couple of guys, but I know guys who they don't stand up when they piss. They sit down. And it's something that they've done since they were a kid. And it's like, to me, that's kind of weird, but they're normal, like blue collar guys, construction guys, but they.
I mean, this is my new favorite phrase. It's an ageist phrase to say just to like immediately make everybody uncomfortable in the room. It's like, you're too old to remember this. Damn it, we got the internet. Everybody can remember everything now.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you get old, your body starts not being trustworthy. And so the term of old fart, you're just like, no, don't trust a fart. You sit down.
Yeah. No, it's like I've told every man out there, there's been a time in your life when you've used a family restroom.
I use my time for privacy.
Yeah, when you've used a woman's restroom, you're like, oh, I gotta go. That one's full. That one's full. All right.
Dude. They didn't have it labeled right at the gas station. It just said restroom. And I go in there, sit down in the stall, didn't notice anything wrong. And then I start hearing voices, and I'm like, this is the damn women's voices. What the hell? And then I just came out and washed my hands, act like I owned the place, and walked out like I was a trucker and didn't give a shit. I'm like, holy shit, that's embarrassing.
The worst I've ever felt was I was traveling out of state, and I had to go. It was an emergency. And I walk into the store, and they had a men's restroom, just a little one stall, locked. Women's restroom, one stall, locked. Family restroom, open. I went in and took care of business. Mm-hmm. And then, as I'm finishing up, I hear the little knock at the door. I gotta go, Mommy. And I'm like, oh, man.
I feel terrible. No,
my whole family had to go. Through me, my ancestors, my descendants, my posterity, everybody, my whole tribe.
You ruined it for everyone. Good job.
I mean, they should just be. I believe in. This is my own 2 cents, and we can pop up the the opinions and everything. But my 2 cents are, There should just be restrooms. They shouldn't be, this, that, or the other. The problem with some schools is some schools get into debates about, well, we got to put up security cameras. We got to protect people. I'm like, at what point are the security cameras like in an area where they don't need to be?
Yeah.
And then you got to have somebody monitoring that stuff. It's like,
well, I used to work at the Ohio State University.
I don't know why we do that, but whatever.
I don't know.
The second the original is Oklahoma State University. So
yeah, but they started they were not necessarily taking away the men's or women's restrooms, but they were putting in unisex restrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever,
like, everybody can sex in this room. That's what I think.
Well, I mean, each their own, I guess.
Just
I'm not here to judge.
A toilet, that's all it is. It's like just the whole. It should just be no more urinals. Get rid of urinals because they're not really effective. They're a waste of water.
Whoa.
All over the board. Or you do the Dodger Stadium trough, and everybody pees in the same trough.
Everybody,
bro.
Yeah,
across.
So we'll move on from that topic. We'll save it for a later day. What is one guest that you have absolutely loved having on your show, or somebody that you want to come on your show?
Oh God, to be 100% honest with you guys, I've loved every one of our guests. They've been amazing. I'm a huge fan of a rock band, Blacktop Mojo. They're based out of Texas. I've been a big fan of these guys since probably 10 plus years ago when they were first kind of putting out cover songs and stuff on YouTube. I stumbled across them just because of the type of music I listen to, and I was hooked.
I haven't heard of them. Are they like Texas Hippie Coalition?
They're a cover band. That's why you hadn't heard of them.
They're not a cover band. They're not necessarily a cover band, but when they were putting out covers, they're actually getting ready to put out their 5th album. They're kind of they're a mix between like rock, blues, and country. Not necessarily Southern rock, but they can. Matt James, the lead singer, has one of these just very unique voices that once you hear it, every time. Way cooler than Dave Matthews.
Blues Travelers?
No. They're way cooler than that. They're way heavier than Blues Traveler. Kind of like a mix of like adultery.
Shut up and let me finish.
Like a little 38 special. Yeah. But no. So when we started the podcast, I knew I wanted to have take breaks. So we do a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
Originally started out as 2 hours, but now we do 3 hours. So I wanted to do breaks and stuff like that. But I wanted to have music. So I reached out to these guys on a whim and I was like, hey, would it be cool if we played your guys' music on our breaks? We're just starting the podcast. Nobody knows anything about us. And I didn't think I was going to hear back from them. Less than 5 minutes, Matt had hit me back. Hell yeah, brother. Just give us a shout out. Give us the credit. Absolutely. So we've been playing their music since day one. They've followed the show. They've supported the show. They're very busy guys. They come off a tour. They're off tour for like a month or so, and they're usually recording an album, and then they're back on tour again for 4 or 5 months. This last time they were off tour, not only were they recording their new album, but Matt was recording his first solo album. What's going on, Tony D? I see you, Sadie's. So they're back on the road and everything, but we had been trying to get them on the show because that was like one of those gets. I wanted to have them on. And they went on tour, and the night they were getting in the bus, Matt was like, send me a link, I'll come on. And I loved it. I wish I could have a do-over because we had some technical difficulties and stuff like that. But I would love to have a do-over. But we've had Chris Cluey on. He's a former NFL kicker. Spent 5 or 6 years with the Minnesota Vikings. Probably one of the best kickers in the NFL ever. Holds every damn record known to mankind. I didn't know what to do because I was like, this is a legit athlete. This is a dude who made millions of dollars. on the NFL level, I'm a huge football fan, and I knew who he was, and I knew the guys
better than me. I would just make fun of football the whole time using the wrong sports terms.
That was my other co-host, my buddy from high school who knows nothing about sports. That was him.
Yeah.
He compared him to Ray Finkel at one point in time.
We're gonna be best friends.
Yeah, but
Oh,
he came on and right off the bat he was awesome to the point where he was like, "I've had a blast. Can I come back again?" Well, like,
Yeah.
hell yeah.
What's
And he came
usually
back.
find is that anybody that comes on a podcast, they have a blast, and they were a little nervous or
do you have
something.
a problem with letting him finish a freaking sentence?
No, not at all.
I have a co-host like him.
I already heard it all and played it in my head, and you're still getting like a lack.
Yeah, but we have
We're
Ohio,
in Ohio together. And
we have
you're
that
still-
Ohio telepathy.
It takes a little bit more time for it to travel to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I see.
We've had some other guests that, I got a friend of mine who's in the music business, and he's great. He actually did our intro for us. He's been on a couple times, had a blast. Just recently, one of the radio stations I listened to, we had one of the guys from their station that came on Monday night, and I expected it to be just busting balls, laughing, joking, everything. And it turned out to be an incredibly deep conversation. We were talking about breakups and dealing with depression and stuff like that. And I got to see a side of him on our show that I never seen of him, like when he was doing the radio and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool that as a podcast host, we had a guest that came on that felt that comfortable to share something that he doesn't even share in his daily job or his own personal podcast. So that was kind of, we're having fun with it.
That's always amazing, isn't it? Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead. Do your plug. No, do your plug. It's right
Sorry,
there.
what?
Pick it back up.
Do what now?
What's your book's about?
This one is about men's mental health and depression.
Nice.
It's so depressing that Robert can't read it, because also it's like the thickest book I wrote. This is the one he likes.
Are there pictures?
Not yet.
I'm out.
There's pictures on the front. Now, the second book is Simple Concept: Bikers versus Vampires. That's why Robert liked it, because he used to be a biker or whatever. But then this one's more about addiction. Like each one kind of deals with some topic like that, but you hide it in titillating occult fiction, adventure stuff. But
no,
yeah,
I'm not a reader, and our favorite story to tell is the fact that I was like, yeah, everybody go buy his book for a year of our podcast.
for like a year he said that. Yeah, go buy his book.
And he's like, are you ever going to read it? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go read it. And I was like, you know what? Fine. Leave me alone. I'm going to take it to the bathroom with me. I'll be in there for a minute anyway, and I'll read the book while I'm in there. 3 hours later, he called me, and he's like, so what'd you think? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm still in the bathroom reading this book.
I've only been in the bathroom. He didn't know he was in the bathroom for 3 hours. He thought it was like 15 minutes, half hour, something like that.
Oh, wow.
But that's the biggest compliment I do get from people, is that, they forget that they were on the shitter and they transcended into a different world. I mean, I can't put that on the back of the book.
You could.
New York Times bestseller.
Creativity.
The best bathroom reader you're going to have. You will forget you're taking a shit and be in another dimension. It's like, what?
My legs were so sore. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
My legs were so sore. It's like, what? No.
I got a friend of mine who we've had him on the show. He's an author. He's written 3 books of poetry, and he's working on some, I don't know, vampires and demons and Lord of the Rings, and not my area of expertise or anything like that. And he constantly yells at me, "Hey, Glick, have you got the book yet?" Yeah, it's in my Amazon cart, but I'll promote the hell out of it for you. I mean,
and that to me is it's really nice that you're doing that. You're being a champion. That's what we promote. Robert says it all the time: be a champion. If not for yourself, do it for somebody else. If you can't drag yourself out of bed, go drag somebody else out of bed. That kind of thing.
I mean, I am the champ. I don't want to brag or anything. I am the champ.
Yeah, you said you got the champ there, but what's your champ belt for? Beer drinking?
Belt is, I don't know how well you guys can see it.
Look at that. It's got beer.
What's up, Donovan? I see you popping in there.
Podcast championship belt. Basically, I'm the greatest podcast host of all time.
Nice.
Well,
Debatable.
I actually know where you got that from because I thought about getting the same thing.
Robert's got us on a magazine cover back there. It's Podcast Magazine. What was
Nice.
that called?
There was an Ohio magazine. What is it called? Voyager Ohio did an interview with me. It blew my mind. They emailed me and were like, "Hey, we'd like to interview you." And I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "We like to focus on entrepreneurs, artists, musicians, creative minds in Ohio." And like, we came across your podcast, and I was like, "And you lasted more than 5 minutes because we're not PC at all, and we're completely unhinged." So it's like, but it was a cool little interview and a really cool piece.
Yeah, like this right here. We talk about whatever the hell pops up.
Yeah. But no, I did. I ordered that off of Trophy Smack. Shout out to Trophy Smack. It started because we used to do a starting 5 on the show. Basically, we would pick a category. It'd be like our top 5 male 80s artists of all time. And we would do it like a NFL draft. So whoever lost the previous week would take the first pick, and then we would just go back and forth, like a little round robin or whatever. And we would put those lists up online and let our viewers and fans, or I hate the word fans. That's so weird.
Me too.
I like to call them friends, but we would let
subscribers good, because that's what we're trying to get them to do.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Supporters are nice. Followers seems like some religious type of thing.
Well, I
prefer family.
Family seems to tend to stab you in the back after they borrowed money.
Yeah.
Then they'll never talk to you again. They avoid the conversation. So, like,
I know. But so we would do that, and it kind of turned into a competition. And that's actually how we got our third co-host, Tony D, who's in the chat there, because he was just a fan, and he was doing it he was taking part in it as a fan, and we were putting his list up with us. And then we just eventually invited him on the show to be a co-host as well. But it turned into a competition, and the listeners got to vote on whose list was the best. Well, I won 27 times in a row, and that's where the champ comes from. I'm a pretty humble guy. I don't like to brag a lot, but
if it's there, yeah. I'll send Tony a link.
Guy that said he was pretty humble.
Yeah. I'm a pretty braggadocious, egotistical maniac. I would have, like, every time I would announce the winner, and I would announce myself, I had like wrestling themes. So I bought the belt because I had like a bunch of plastic WWE belts that my son has, and I was wearing those on the show. And I was like, screw it, I got extra money. Let me get one made. But like I said, I do got to give Trophy Smack a shout out, because the first belt they sent me, the decals or the vinyl started peeling off, and I sent them a couple pictures, and they had sent me a brand new belt in less than a week. They sent me out a brand new belt, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, I mean, huge shout out, definitely worth the money, which now I'll turn this into something else. I don't know.
Yeah. I seen an ad on Facebook for them not long ago, and I was looking at it, and I was like playing with it, and I was like,
I was going to get you that instead of the trophy I got you.
Right?
Yeah, take the handles up.
I got it.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the greatest abilities about podcasting is the fact that you get to meet so many people.
Exactly.
So many people, different walks, different lifestyles. And you never know what a conversation will lead to. Like you said, the guy on the radio, it turned into something about mental health and those conversations.
It was a complete 180 from what I thought it was going to be, because we talked offline and we him and I chit chat back and forth and kind of just joking around, having a good time and all that other stuff. So I expected kind of, and like I said, Tony and I, we do the shows on Mondays, and we have a tendency to have more down to earth conversations and stuff like that. But Wednesdays and Saturdays, especially Saturdays, it's just complete anarchy, total chaos. 5 nights.
Yeah, we go 5 nights a week, man.
I if I could get the guys to do 5 nights a week, I probably would, but I don't foresee that happening unless we're making a substantial amount of money.
Listen,
but I do.
Robert
I do.
and I just like talking to each other. This is our therapy.
Yeah.
This
Yes.
is our guy therapy time, and we get it off our chest. We vent. I mean, a lot of topics. Robert's venting about something. It's like
For
something
the first, I would say for the first year and a half consistently, whatever pissed me off that day,
pretty much
our topic that night.
Yeah.
I'd come in and be like, fucking postal service.
Well, yeah, I'll text him. I'll text him in the middle of the day. I'm like, hey, what are we talking about? And because he's way better at setting up the show than I am. He came up with the logo. I didn't even know he could do that. Once we'd figured out our name, because we were doing like a ridiculous name of ancillary. We didn't even know how to say it right. We called it ancillary or something. But yeah, we fixed on question for you before the whole QAnon thing. I mean, we had a patriotic logo before all that happened, and then it's like now it's just guilty by association. We got removed, kicked off a bunch of stuff. But yeah, most of the time Robert had something figured out already, or we play something that we previously did or people haven't seen if we need a night off. But we usually take Monday and Sunday off, and very rarely do we like double stack, which takes a lot out of you. I mean, I don't know how you guys do 3 hours in a row. We try to keep it to 1 hour.
Well, and that was the thing when Tony first came on, and we were doing the show for, I think we had just switched to 3 hours, and that was Tony saying, "What the hell are we going to talk about for 3 hours?" Oh, that's a great thing about me. I'm an endless mountain of content, and the guys, and again, they're I couldn't ask for any supporting cast with Jeff and Tony, because they will follow my lead, and we can literally talk about anything. We've never had nothing to talk about. Not to mention the fact that, throughout the week I'm pulling news stories, and I don't do like we did we talked about obviously like big things, obviously like Musk changing Twitter's name and stuff like that. But like there was a couple who the guy proposed to his wife. They were on a cliff in Turkey, and he had this whole big romantic picnic planned out. If she said yes, so she said yes. He went back to the car, turned around. She had fallen off the cliff.
Oh, shit.
So me being the bad guy that I am, I was like, does it make me an asshole that I would want the ring back? So that turned into a topic of conversation based off of, just a news story. But I'm always pulling stuff like that. And I listen to a station. It's called 102.5. They're out of Tampa, and they're talk radio all day long. So and like, it's not like the boring political talk. It's kind of like what you guys do, what we do on the podcast and stuff like that. They're just kind of hanging out. They chit chat about whatever. So I'll try to listen for stories that they talk about so that I can look them up, and then we got that extra content. Plus, Tony and I are both sports guys. I'm a huge sports guy. If I venture out of the room too long, Tony and Jeff will go to their fail safe talking about terrible movies that nobody likes. But
that was another thing. You messaged me. You were like, "Hey, we'd love to collab with you on sports." And I was like, "Look, dude, I'll be honest with you. I'll come on and talk to you, but when it comes to sports, I'm not a sports fan."
Yeah.
I was just at lunch today with the original guy I was going to podcast with, but because him and another coworker and I would go to lunch together. So my big beautiful friend Howard always had an opinion about every restaurant we went to. I'm like, dude, you could talk about restaurants. I kept trying to tell him, dude, you should do a podcast. I mean, I think he thought that was just something like white guys do or whatever.
It's like together with your friends and be like, we should open a bar.
Yeah. No, and then like he knew everything about sports, and they would always take me out to lunch, and they'd apologize when they're just watching a game and they're talking about stuff, and they're like, "Oh, shoot, dude, sorry, you just do art. You don't know anything about sports." I'm like, I know enough to piss off my mother-in-law at the Dodgers game. But like we can talk about other stuff, and I can interview enough to say, okay, who's this guy? Okay, why is this guy important? Why should any average person like really stand up and pay attention to this guy or that guy or whoever else? I can ask questions enough, and we had different political opinions. He's the kind of guy that like perhaps a presidential candidate said if you're not black, you shouldn't vote for him, something like that. And he's like, well, I got to vote for him because I think I'm black or whatever. But like they always had like some other opinion and always wanted to ask me. That's how the conversations all would work. Question for you. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, God, you just got to do it. And like Zoom meetings were starting around and stuff. And like he pissed me off for the one time. I'm like, yeah, he ain't going to do it. And I was complaining to Robert because we had reconnected. We had met at the job site.
So
go ahead.
Simple Jack.
Why you interrupting me? Motherfucker, you always interrupt me.
Shut the fuck up for a minute. Simple Jack, swing by August 16th. We're going to have the world's top Trump impersonator on the show with us.
Yeah, like they'd ask me like, who would I vote for? And they're like, you vote for Trump. I knew you vote. I'm like, dude. And Howard had to shut the other guy up. He's like, dude, he didn't even say anything yet. You just jump down his throat. I'm like, no, I just called my wife. I'm like, who am I going to vote for? And she's like, I don't like this guy, or this guy, so vote for this one. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we were doing the election podcast during the election and stuff and trying to cover this stuff that, I was like, I don't think I'm a conservative Republican. I think I'm a constitutional libertarian like Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. That's pretty much it. And I explained it to my buddy Howard today at lunch. I'm like, he's like, what's that? I'm like, basically the Constitution, this is the rule of law. This is our governing document. And if you want to change that, you got to do it the right way.
I heard a very interesting comment today about that. The government was set up, and you guys would be great to talk to this about. The government was set up for 13 states.
Well, 13 colonies at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, 13 colonies, yeah.
So it was set up for 13. Now that we're at 50, do you think the government should reform itself to cover more area, or we should abolish it and set up a new system?
I think it's too big to succeed, and they're too powerful to let us secede and separate and govern ourselves as states. Because it just should be self-governing as states, in my opinion.
I can agree with that, but I like you said, I think it's just we the people lost our power a long time ago. We think that you hear people, my taxes pay your salary. Not anymore, because Mr. Politician's back there in the back alley with the Marlboro brand, and they're sliding him an envelope with $500,000 in it, so that he goes after the vape industry, and then you got alcohol in the other guy's pocket saying, "Hey, we got to get rid of all these weird seltzers and shit."
The lady last night, the senatorial candidate for California, I mean, dude, she opened up a whole can of worms. And what I loved about that lady is she's like naming names the whole time. She's like, I don't agree with this person.
She's gonna still run as a Democrat to take the Democrat seat.
She's not a Democrat. She's a Republican.
She's an independent. Yeah, she's an independent.
She's Republican.
She's flipping though. You go and read her. Yeah, read her thing, dude.
Oh, she's Republican.
No, don't start your sentence off with no. She's flipping.
She's Republican.
She was telling us how much reason why she hates it and what happened. Read her bio, dude. I read it.
Where did you read it from? Wikipedia?
The one you sent me.
Wait a
I
minute.
may have seen Wikipedia.
Not the truth. It's not factual. I feel like I've had that conversation with one of my co-hosts.
Is the greatest thing in the world. Anybody can contribute to it.
Yeah. Right. For the people, by the people.
For the people, by the people, yeah.
Basically, a libertarian, though, means I believe in my inalienable rights, allow me to do whatever I want as long as those rights don't infringe on your rights.
Exactly.
And, interchangeably, reciprocally, Same thing goes to you. I'll be me, you be you, and leave me the fuck out.
I think a lot of people are surprised because in the world we live in today, based off the way I look and the way I sound, automatically they're like, "Oh, he's a Trumper." But I think a lot of people are surprised when they find out that I'm I'm more in the middle. I do lean more right, but I'm in the middle. I can see at times valid points from both sides, but I can also go, they're all fucking morons. You realize that, right? They're only looking out for their pocket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, that's what he got up. And so, I love when Dave Chappelle gets there on Saturday Night Live, and he was like, "This was the first honest liar we've ever seen," because he got up there and he says, "I know how the system works because I've used it. And they know how the system works and they use it. They benefit from the same tax brackets that all the other rich people do. That's why they're like, hey, at $400,000, then you don't have to pay capital. No, those people should. Everybody, listen, just make everybody pay 10% if we have to. But we don't. So, the government's a business. They can make money to pay for everything.
This right here, we the people, we abolished that. And Luke and myself, we say be the people. Be the people. It's like be the change you want to see in the world.
Exactly.
Be the people that you want to see succeed. And that's what it really comes down to, because what are you doing now? Why are you touching stuff?
Listen, I'm trying to find the one, because look, see? There it is. There it is. See it? It's on the screen.
So,
see the thing?
And the reason it's because during the time
where'd he go?
You're still touching stuff.
Quit touching it. I'm not touching it. 2 hands.
Is Jeff here?
Be the people. Be the change you want to see, because at the time of the election, when the world started to split between red and blue, and I hate your opinions and you hate mine, blah, blah, blah. At that point in time, everyone started saying, if they do this, I'm going to do this. And then the government would do it. If they do this, then I'm going to do this. And then the government would do it. If they do this, it's a cartoon of drawing the line in the sand. Don't cross this line. Don't cross this line. Don't cross this line.
Yeah,
and
Robert
they kept crossing the line.
Where's the line?
And they kept telling people, okay, so what is your line? What is your eventual line that if they cross, you're going to say, okay, you know what? I've had enough. It's time for this to happen.
Well, in the crazy thing about it, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, for me, since I've been an adult, it doesn't matter who's in office. There has never been any major effect on my personal life who's in office, outside of the fact that I may pay a little bit more for gasoline than I was paying when so-and-so was in there. Or, I might pay a few cents more for a gallon of milk than what I was paying when this guy was in there. There's never been really anything that has affected my life that deeply where I want to sit here and I want to fight with somebody because I like Trump and you like Biden. Okay, cool. Have a good day. Are we going to finish our beers or what? What's going on? You going to finish that or you?
Or do I? Yeah.
See, I like the line from Princess Bride. The battle of wits has begun. It's where we find out who is right and who is dead. It's pretty much like, you think you're right, but you're going to be dead wrong. Mm-hmm. And I'll just sit here and watch you eat your humble pie. When you realize that you screwed up. You voted for the wrong person.
We're actually at the end of our show, but one thing we love to ask at the end of it, Glick, what do you have to say for yourself?
If you had one last final message to say to the world.
Fuck you, bitches. It's been a wild ride. Bye. I'm going out the same way I came in.
Naked
and blood, screaming.
Covered in blood, screaming.
Oh, yeah.
As for me, guys, hang out. Don't run off yet, of course. As for me, guys, be a champion. If not for yourself, do it for someone else.
And I already said it. I'll be me, you be you. This is Q4U. Share us with your friends. Tell everybody about us too. See you guys.
Share every video.